This has been maybe the craziest offseason in NBA history. It's definitely up there with trades, signings, a bunch of news with the LeBron news, the Kawhi trade, the Giannis trade, the Jaylen Brown trade. This has just been an unreal offseason that actually did live up to the hype because there was always the Giannis rumors, the Jaylen Brown rumors came around, the Kawhi rumors, and it actually all did happen. It wasn't just a bunch of fake rumors or hype for the offseason that didn't actually pay off. We've actually gotten an insane amount of stuff. So today I'm going to grade every major move, every major signing that has happened since free agency started. I'm not going to cover more of the smaller things that, the players that are signing for 1-year deals worth $2 million or something. I'm going to be covering like the main stuff, the main deals, the main trades, and I'm going to be grading every single one for each team that is involved in the deal. So starting off, I want to start with what the Lakers have done this offseason because they have done a lot, probably more than any other team when it comes to how many deals they have done. So obviously the LeBron news happened. I'm not going to grade LeBron news, but that happened. And as soon as that happened, Rob Pelinka just started unloading the clip of signings. He went out and got Walker Kessler from the Utah Jazz in a sign-in trade where they signed him to a $130 million deal for 4 years. That does sound like a lot of money, but honestly, the Lakers need their center. They needed their center to pair alongside Luka. That is a fair enough deal. I'm not too mad about the deal that they gave Walker Kessler, but in the trade that they gave to Utah, they gave them an unprotected first-round pick in 2031 and 2033, and a first-round swap in 2028 and 2030. The Utah Jazz just got a haul of picks for Walker Kessler, and I believe the Utah Jazz walk out of this unbelievably happy. Walker Kessler's a very, very good player, a very solid center in this league. I think he is a top 15 play or a top 15 center in the NBA, and I think alongside Luka, he can even rise in that ladder of NBA centers just because of how easy Luka makes everyone's life, especially his big men. And Walker Kessler can stretch out the three. He can still roll to the paint hard. 4 lobs from Luka. He can space the floor, like I said, and I think his most value comes from his defense, especially on this Lakers team that is going to need as much defense as possible. Walker Kessler brings a lot of that. He's one of the better rim protectors in this league, and he's relatively young. So you put him alongside this team, he's just going to continue to get better, hopefully, and especially with him alongside Luka, he's definitely going to get better. And so the money is not the issue. It's just the amount of draft capital they gave the Utah Jazz. My goodness, they unloaded the draft capital to the Utah Jazz, and now they only have, I believe, 1 first-round pick, and I think it's a pick swap in the next 7 years. They have no draft capital in the first round except 1 in the next 7 years until like 2033 or something like that. So they have fully committed to this roster of guys, fully committed to Walker Kessler being their center. And for the Lakers, in this deal, I'm gonna give it like a B, a B plus. I think I'm gonna settle with a B for the Lakers because they gave up a lot in this deal. They unloaded completely all of their draft capital to the Utah Jazz for Walker Kessler, and they paid him a lot of money as well. So I'm probably gonna give it a B. For the Utah Jazz, I'm giving this an A. This is incredible value. They, for the longest time, were in talks to trade Walker Kessler, and for the longest time as well, they held on to him because they were not going to trade him unless the deal was what they wanted. And man, did patience benefit them because they finally came across the team that was desperate enough to trade a bunch of draft capital to them for Walker Kessler. So for the Utah Jazz, I'm definitely giving them an A, and they were definitely the winners of this deal. Another deal that the Lakers made was signing Colin Sexton to a 2-year, $19 million deal. Kind of a random deal. I mean, I get that, you want someone whenever Luka's off to hold up the offense as much as possible. They did need that like backup guard. Bronny James was solid when he does play, but Colin Sexton can definitely come out there and score, but that doesn't help their defense still. And it was just, it was kind of a whatever signing for me. So I'd give that signing like a C plus, I guess. A deal I did like more so for the Lakers was them signing Quentin Grimes to a 4-year, $60 million deal. Kind of a steep contract for Quentin Grimes, but I think Quentin Grimes is a very solid player. You put him alongside Luka, who Luka's like the engine of an offense that you'd want to put on your team, and you put a bunch of shooters Guys like Quinn Grimes, Walker Kessler. Those guys are just very solid players to put alongside Luka, and guys that you do need. I mean, Quinn Grimes is a solid enough defender. He's not going to be able to defend a guy like LeBron James or Kevin Durant or something like that, Anthony Edwards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But he's solid enough defender. He helps the defense a little bit on the perimeter. They definitely need to work more on that defense, though. But yeah, I like Quinn Grimes. He can shoot the ball very well. I think he's a perfect player to put alongside Luka, that type of prototypical forward guard who's a bit tall, can shoot, and play a little bit of defense. He's not going to be a complete cone out there defensively. I'd give this deal more of a B plus for the Lakers. I like this deal much more than I do the Colin Sexton deal. I even like it a little bit more than the Walker Kessler deal just because of how much they gave up. Another deal I do like for the Lakers was them signing Sandro Mamukelashvili for a 4-year, $52 million deal. Mamu showed himself that he is a very solid role player in this league when he was playing for the Raptors. He showed flashes of that with the Spurs. And he really did show up with the Raptors. I mean, he was getting real playoff minutes for them, and his fruits of his labor appear in this offseason with this contract going to the Lakers, playing in the biggest market in the league. So happy for Mamu. He is a very solid player. He can stretch out the floor. They just got a bunch of guys who can shoot the ball, have the floor wide open for Luka to work and pass the ball and everything. So I like what the Lakers are doing offensively, but again, a lot of these guys aren't solid defenders. Like, Mamu is not a great defender. Like, you don't put Mamu up against like the best forwards in the league. I like the deal. It's a solid deal. Mamu's a very solid player. It's just defensively, this is not helping them at all. So their identity is going to be like trying to be a top 5 offensive engine in the league with Luka and try and be middle of the pack defensively. I don't think they're going to be that good. I think they're going to be a little bit lower than middle of the pack defensively. They could be even lower, though. It just depends on how this defense, how much of these guys are giving effort defensively as well. So for this Mamu signing, I'll give this signing a B. I like Mamu a lot. Having Mamu at the 4 spot with Kessler won't hurt you as much defensively because you have Walker Kessler back there protecting the paint. So I don't mind that deal. I like it for Mamu. I like it for the Lakers. Hopefully he can replicate what he did with the Raptors for the Lakers and stretch out that floor. I think he was shooting near 40% from 3 last year for Toronto. So he needs to replicate that because the Lakers are going for one of the best offenses in the league next year, and they need that offense if they want a chance to go far in the playoffs. So a projected starting 5 for the Lakers after covering all their signings is Luka, Austin Reeves, Quinn Grimes or Jake LaRavia, Mamu, and Walker Kessler. And off that bench is Colin Sexton, Bronny, Cam Carr, Dalton Knecht, Jake LaRavia, Vanderbilt, DeAndre Ayton. Vanderbilt's really their only like actual defender on this team. I don't know if you want to put Vanderbilt. You're not going to put Vanderbilt in the starting lineup. There's no way. But he's probably going to have to play a heavy load of minutes when they go in the playoffs because their defense is not going to survive against good perimeter players. So another deal that has to do with a Laker but no longer a Laker is Luke Kennard signing to the Phoenix Suns for a 2-year, $13 million deal. I really like this for the Suns after that Miles Bridges trade, them giving up Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal. I did not like that trade for the Suns. I know that didn't have to do with free agency. That was before free agency, but if I were to grade that trade, it would not be very good for the Suns. I thought they way overvalued Miles Bridges. But this is a good signing for them now that they gave up Grayson Allen. Luke Kennard can be that Grayson Allen replacement just because he's that good of a shooter. So for this deal, I like it for them. I'm giving this like an A-. That's really good value for Luke Kennard, 2-year, $13 million deal, especially after what they did with Grayson Allen. Another deal was Marcus Smart signing to the Houston Rockets for a 2-year, $13 million deal. Marcus Smart's a very solid player. This has nothing to do with him, but it's more so the fit. I don't really like this fit too much. I don't know where Marcus Smart can come in and have his role and his impact really shown with this team having as many guards as they do with Reed Shepherd, Amen Thompson, Fred VanVleet coming back this year. I think that his role is going to be very much so minimized when you compare it to the Lakers. The contract's not terrible, $13 million for 2 years, and Marcus Smart as a player was very solid for the Lakers, especially when you saw in the playoffs and everything. He played very much so winning basketball, but Marcus Smart on this team I just don't think fits very well, not nearly as much as other signings coming up. So This one I'm going to give more of a C+. Marcus Smart, I think, would have been used much better in other teams that needed a defensive guard on the perimeter. So for this one, I'm going to go C+. John Collins signs to the Detroit Pistons after they lost Tobias Harris, and they signed him for a $51 million deal for 3 years. That's a pretty hefty contract for John Collins. I don't know about this fit too much. John Collins can stretch the floor. Defensively, he's not the craziest, but he can stretch the floor. He can get in that dunker spot. And if they do sign Jalen Duren back, I think John Collins does fit alongside Jalen Duren and does fit alongside Cade Cunningham. But defensively, I just don't know if John Collins fits that Detroit culture and what they're going with this team, with their defense and their grit and that kind of style. I don't know if John Collins fits that all too well. We'll see if he does buy into that. John Collins is a very solid player. I think he has been progressively getting much better, and he was very solid with the Clippers last year. But for the Pistons, I think this is kind of a weird fit. I still like the deal. It is kind of a heftier contract for John Collins, but I think it is well deserved as well. So for the Pistons, I'm going to give this a B+. John Collins is a very solid player. I think he can provide a good amount of offense and defensively hopefully buy into this Detroit Pistons style of grit and toughness and everything. We'll see, but I do think this is a little bit of a weird fit, so I'm going to hold myself from giving it an A because John Collins is a solid player, but fit-wise, I think this is like a B+. And in a scenario where they don't sign back Jalen Duren and they do the sign and trade with Sabonis, or he goes somewhere else and they have to get a new center, John Collins being that four-man does not help you defensively at all, so that's going to be tough. A lot of it does depend on what happens with that center position, so we'll see. As of right now, Jalen Duren, we still don't know what's going on with that, so I'm going to hold myself from an A and give it a B+. Now, this deal is someone going back to their former team. This is Nikola Vucevic going to the Orlando Magic for a 1-year, $3.9 million deal. I think that's very solid value for Nikola Vucevic. The Magic always need more offense. Defensively, they're always one of the better teams in the league. Offensively is where they struggle. Sometimes they get stagnant. And Nikola Vucevic doesn't help them defensively at all, but offensively, he will be that stretch five. And him going back to Orlando is cool. I mean, not much more to that. The Orlando Magic had him for, I believe, 9 years of his career before he was traded to the Bulls in 2021, I believe. So yeah, $3.9 million deals, very solid value for the Orlando Magic. I'm going to give this an A-. I mean, why not? Nikola Vucevic ain't the best center in the league, but $3.9 million is very cheap for him. And who knows, this might be his last stop. He could retire after this, wanted to go back to Orlando for one last time before he does retire. The Boston Celtics go out and sign Mitchell Robinson to a 3-year, $47 million deal. They grab him from the New York Knicks. The Knicks were probably not able to hit that second apron to sign back Mitchell Robinson. So $47 million deal for Mitchell Robinson. He had big moments in the finals. He's shown that he can win a championship, obviously. And for a little bit until they traded Jaylen Brown, I thought the Boston Celtics were going to look pretty good next year with Mitchell Robinson at that starting five position. But then they traded him, and now I have lost faith in the Boston Celtics unless they make another deal. But yeah, Mitchell Robinson's very solid. It's good to see him get that payday. So for the Boston Celtics, I do like this. I'm not taking into consideration the Jaylen Brown trade when grading this. I'm going to give this an A-. Mitchell Robinson can't stretch the floor. He's not going to help them with that crazy three-point shooting style of offense. But man, can Mitchell Robinson rebound that ball, get the offensive rebounds, give them extra possessions, and kick out for threes. I know Joe Mazzulla loves the sound of that. And defensively as well, just anchors down that defense. He's not the greatest defender in the world, but he can definitely anchor a defense with his length and his height. So I do like this deal. I'm going to give it an A- for the Boston Celtics. For the San Antonio Spurs, they go out and sign Tobias Harris to a 2-year, $31 million deal. Solid value for a guy like Tobias Harris, who was pretty decent for the Pistons in the regular season and was one of their highlights in the playoffs. Even though he wasn't the most efficient scorer, he definitely was scoring, and that's kind of been the story of Tobias Harris's career. He's not the most efficient guy out there, but his value is just the fact that he can score, and you just have to respect that. He's not a guy that you can live with shooting. You do have to respect his ability to score in the post, from the three, in the mid-range, can get to the basket pretty well. and it just has to be a solid enough defender. He doesn't have to be locking down the perimeter. But I think his main value comes with his scoring and also just being a big body out there, a big guy who can grab rebounds. I know the Spurs were in rumors to get Rui Hachimura or Tobias Harris. They did not get Rui. They settled with Tobias Harris, probably for a cheaper contract as well. And comparing those two, I do think Tobias Harris is the better rebounder, and Tobias also gives that threat of just going off for 25 on a random night. Tobias Harris can go out and score from pretty much anywhere on the court. I like this alongside Wemby. Tobias Harris will have the court wide open for him to do whatever he wants because he's probably going to be like the fourth offensive option out there for the Spurs. He's not the greatest defender in the world, so that's why it kind of will tank the grading a little bit. But when you play alongside Wemby, Steph Castle, guys like that, you don't have to be the greatest defender in the world for you to be an impactful player. Just have to be solid enough. Just don't be a cone out there. And Wemby will make up for a lot of your mistakes. So for the San Antonio Spurs, I'm going to give this an A-. I really do like this for them. The only worry is just Tobias Harris's efficiency at times. We've seen that he can be pretty good in the playoffs, but he does have to pick up that efficiency because it was pretty bad in the playoffs last year. Another deal I like is Kelly Oubre going to the Indiana Pacers for a 2-year, $17 million deal. I really do like this. I think that's pretty good value. Kelly Oubre can just go in, pretty easy plug and play to the Indiana Pacers offense. He's not the greatest defender in the world, but he's just a solid player that you can add alongside Tyrese Halliburton coming back next year. They just got Zubac, Siakam, Aaron Nesmith, Andrew Nembhard. They just have a solid team out there. I like what the Pacers are doing. Kelly Oubre is just a really solid player. That's pretty good value for him as well. 2-year, $17 million deal. So for the Pacers, I'm going to give this an A- as well. Kelly Oubre is just a solid player, and I can just see the fast-paced game that they play in Kelly Oubre, getting outlet passes from Tyrese Halliburton and stuff like that. So I like what the Pacers are doing. They know they're going to come back next year and be one of the best teams in the East, so they're not going to settle. They went out and made a little bit of a move and got Kelly Oubre, so I like that deal for him. Another deal I'm liking a lot of these deals, is Norman Powell going to the Chicago Bulls for a 2-year, $45 million deal. The Chicago Bulls actually do have a pretty decent team now. This is probably the best team that they've had in a few years, most amount of talent they've had in a couple years, with Josh Giddey, Norman Powell, Modest Buzelis, Caleb Wilson, and Nick Claxton. That is a solid, just all-around pretty decent team. Josh Giddey can be the initiator. Norman Powell, his scoring ability, you always have to respect. Modest Buzelis is only going to get better. I love his game. And Caleb Wilson is a stud. I love Caleb Wilson's game as well. And Nick Claxton, their new addition as well this offseason, a very solid player. Can not anchor a defense, but just be a good body in the paint to protect the paint. So for the Chicago Bulls, I like what they're doing. They're not just trying to tank. They're not just trying to, do whatever and trying to be mediocre. They actually are putting together a pretty decent roster. So if Caleb Wilson can come into this year, be the player that we know he can be, I see the Bulls easily making the play-in game this year. So for the Bulls, is it a lot of money? Sure, but so what? You're the Chicago Bulls. You get a player like Norman Powell, who's just an all-star, who can score the ball. He can go out for 30 in any given night. I like this deal. I'm going to give this an A for the Chicago Bulls. They're actually putting together a solid roster and having an actual direction with what this team wants to do. I'm not going to cover this one too much. I'm going to briefly cover it because I just covered it in yesterday's video. But the Boston Celtics go out and trade Jaylen Brown to the Philadelphia 76ers. A+ for Philly. I don't care. A+ for them. And for the Boston Celtics, this is a D for them, getting Paul George and 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks for them. Just a very awful trade. This was all they're doing as well. That's what the worst part is. So A+ for Philly, a D for the Boston Celtics. This is one of the worst trades in a long time. And this one just happened right before recording, is Anthony Simons signing a 2-year, $12 million deal to Philadelphia 76ers. So Philly just keeps on going, keeps on adding more and more, and man, I just love what Philly is doing. They went out and got Jaylen Brown. They got LeBaron in the draft. They got Anthony Simons. They signed Dean Wade, another deal I'm going to cover after this one. Man, I love what Philly's doing right now. Anthony Simons is a very solid player, can go out there and score. And off the bench, that is a solid value for Anthony Simons. Get Tyrese Maxey, someone who can, when he comes off the floor, run the show a little bit with the ball. I love this deal for them as well. I'm gonna give this like an A. $12 million 2-year for Anfernee Simons is a very, very solid deal. So a trade that happened pretty recently was the Grizzlies trading Santi Aldama to the Dallas Mavericks for AJ Johnson and a protected 2030 first round pick that is from the Warriors. So Santi Aldama to the Mavericks I like. I'm gonna give that like a B+. The Mavericks need a little bit of more offense to revolve around Cooper Flag, and Santi Aldama is just an easy plug and play player, can stretch the floor, make things a little bit easier for everyone. So I like Santi Aldama on that team. I'm gonna give that a B+ for them, and they only gave up a protected 2030 Warriors first round pick and a 2 first-round picks or 2 second-round picks and AJ Johnson. AJ Johnson's been moved a lot in his career already, his young career, and that 2030 first-round pick I believe is top 20 protected. And in 2030, I feel like the Warriors are going to be a completely different team, so that might not even convey. So for the Grizzlies, I'm gonna give this like a B, just because I mean got some draft capital I guess, and Santi Aldama was taking up some minutes from who would be like Cam Boozer or Jeremy Grant or whatever. So I think you open up that position a little bit more, and I like that. So for them, I'll give it a B. Dean Wade going to the Philadelphia 76ers. I said I'd talk about this after I talked about that Anfernee Simons deal. 4 years, $39 million deal, which is about $10 million a year if it's spread equally, as contracts are not normally. But that's solid value for Dean Wade, I think. Dean Wade is just a solid player. Maybe a little bit too much money, but fill out that 4 spot for them on that team where they got Tyrese Maxey, BJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, and then Dean Wade, and then Embiid. I think Dean Wade is a very, very solid plug and play right there to just be a solid defender, do enough on offense. I think this is a solid signing. I'm going to give that a B+. Another deal I do like is, this is the last deal I'm covering, Tim Hardaway Jr. going to where his dad played, the Miami Heat. I really like this for them. 1 year, $6.5 million deal. That is very solid value. And for the Miami Heat, they needed someone to space the floor alongside Bam and Giannis, and I like Tim Hardaway Jr. a lot. He was one of the runner-ups to Sixth Man of the Year last year, and they signed him for $6 million. So I like this for Tim Hardaway Jr. I like this for the Miami Heat. So this one, I'm going to give it an A. So that wraps my thoughts on free agency so far. It's been a lot. It has been a lot of signings, a lot of trades, and a lot of everything. So let me know what y'all think about these signings. What has your favorite team done so far? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you in the middle about it? Or has your favorite team done anything? Who knows? What if they're just sitting around and just wanting to run it back this year? Or tell me what you want your team to do if they haven't done anything. Or tell me if you disagree with what your team has done, or if you've loved what your team has done. Let me know in the comments below. Hit the like button, subscribe button, notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.